Most about protect yourself for a long time. Touch go.
Tweet from Michael Benson, which we discussed in passing in a previous video. The WBA have decided that Gervonta Davis and Leo Santa Cruz on October 24th will be both for the WBA regular lightweight title held by Davis and the WBA super featherweight title held by Leo Santa Cruz. Fight taking place at super featherweight, but the winner will get both belts. The WBA have yet to make Leo Santa Cruz choose between the two titles he currently has. If he beats Gervonta Davis, he'll hold 3 WBA belts in 3 different weights all at once. WBA Super
at featherweight,
WBA Super at super featherweight, and WBA Regular at lightweight. As if the WBA's proliferation of trinket titles wasn't bad enough, there's also the mismanagement of these titles to consider.
They're fucking up.
Leo Santa Cruz has already debuted as a super featherweight. He already holds a title there, and he doesn't appear to be going back down to 126 pounds. He doesn't appear to be going back down to featherweight. So why is he still holding the major version of a title there? Why is that even his choice?
It shouldn't be.
There really should be a statute of limitations on how many titles an individual fighter can hold in a number of weight classes. That if Leo Santa Cruz has no intention of defending the WBA super title in the featherweight division, then he shouldn't still be in possession of it. All you're doing is preventing someone else from fighting for it. Someone who's actually campaigning in the featherweight division. That's all that does.
Leo Santa Cruz ain't there anymore.
The WBA's regular champion at featherweight, Kansu, should either be elevated to super champion status or super champion status, the title that Leo used to hold. That title should be taken out of circulation until such a time as the regular champion qualifies for it. In an ideal world, that's what would be going on, because what's actually going on is quite ridiculous. You guys have still got Leo Santa Cruz listed as a champion. He doesn't even campaign in anymore.
What the hell are you guys trying to pull?
You know, I get the sneaking suspicion that there's more at work here than meets the eye. That if super champion status for Leo Santa Cruz, who's already left the featherweight division, has not yet been rescinded, it is for a reason. Is it possible that between the WBA and the PBC, they're biding their time, waiting long enough to ensure that that super champion status ends up in the hands of another PBC fighter, when by all rights, it should go to Kansu? Did you guys forget what happened between Alberto Machado, Jezreel Corrales, and Gervonta Davis? Even though Jezreel Corrales, the then WBA super champion, was unseated by Alberto Machado, rather than Alberto being made WBA super champion, they made Gervonta Davis WBA super champion months after Machado versus Corrales. And I know what you're going to tell me. You're going to tell me that, well, Jezreel blew the weight and he lost the title on the scales. But all that means is that the title was only available for Alberto, should Alberto win the fight. And guess what? Alberto won the fucking fight. So how does he end up with a lesser version of the full title? And how does Gervonta Davis, for fighting Jesus Cuellar months later, a guy inactive for 2 years, how was Davis eligible to win the title by fighting that fucking guy months after Machado had beat Corrales?
It's a conspiracy, man!
Think about the WBA's latest shenanigan. Now they're saying that both Leo Santa Cruz's title was going to be on the line in the Davis fight, but so is Gervonta Davis's title, the title that he holds at 135. The trinket title, but the title nonetheless. And one is left to wonder, okay, what's the rhyme and the reasoning here? If the fight is a contracted super featherweight title fight, why do you guys have a lightweight title, even a lesser version of it, on the line? What are you guys trying to pull here?
They're trying to help Gervonta.
And it wouldn't be the first time. We talked about how Gervonta Davis came to being the WBA champion in the super featherweight division at a time when, by all rights, Alberto Machado should have been the full-fledged champion. The WBA helped Gervonta Davis then, and they're helping him now. Because we all know about Gervonta Davis's weight issues. His then struggle to make 130 pounds, and his current struggle to make 135 pounds. He almost blew the weight in what was his lightweight debut.
Remember?
There's a chance, and it's been discussed here on the channel, that perhaps Gervonta won't be able to make 130 pounds. Not healthy, and he might so decide to fight at just above super featherweight. In the event this happens, they want the event, the fight between him and Leo Santa Cruz, to still be a title fight of some kind. They need for something to be on the line so that this fight can matter. So what they've done is put both titles on the line, both the super featherweight title and the lightweight title, so that in the event that Gervonta Davis blows the weight, there's still something there for Leo Santa Cruz to win. And that's why I think they're doing this. That's what I think this is. They're leaving the door open for Gervonta Davis to blow the weight, but still keep the fight a title fight if he does. That's why this is a super featherweight contest. That this is contracted as a 130-pound title fight, but they've got a 135-pound title on the line, alongside a 130-pound title.
The fuck?
It's pure chicanery. It's what it is. A textbook example of chicanery. They're manipulating the situation in favor of Gervonta Davis, and you know what? It wouldn't be the first time the WBA has done this. They helped him become a champion in the 130-pound division after he blew the weight and lost his IBF title, and they're helping him here and now, ahead of this Leo Santa Cruz fight. This guy was afforded a world title opportunity by fighting a guy who hadn't had a fight in 2 fucking years and was coming off a loss at 126. That's how Gervonta Davis became the WBA champion at 130.
When it should have been Alberto Machado that got that belt.
And now they're doing this. I'll tell you, the WBA might be the oldest organization of the alphabet organizations in boxing, but they're also one of the more disgraceful organizations. They're right up there with their sister organization, the WBC.
They are fucking peas in a pod, those two.
In other news, per tweet from Michael Benson, Devin Haney has declared that he started negotiations to potentially defend his WBC lightweight title versus Yuriorkis Gamboa next. And look, guys, I understand the plight of Devin Haney. I understand that it doesn't really seem like anyone's in a hurry to fight him. No, he's a well-known guy in the lightweight division. He's a champion, WBC lightweight champion.
He's got a belt.
But nobody's kicking down his door to take it from him. So I understand the nature of the situation and how it is that someone like Devin Haney ends up looking at a guy like Yuriorkis Gamboa. You're essentially looking at that guy because nobody else seems to be in a hurry to fight you.
But they've got to do better than this.
Even in this situation, Devin Haney and his team, they have to do better because Yuriorkis Gamboa is no more a justifiable opponent for Devin than he was for Gervonta. No matter what, Yuriorkis Gamboa is past it, and you're essentially affording this guy a title shot, a world title opportunity, whilst he's coming off a loss to Gervonta Davis?
What the hell's he done to get a title shot?
Twist his ankle and get punched in the face a couple of times, get dropped a couple of times by Gervonta? Is that what gets you a title shot these days?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but they've got to do better.
The only purpose that a fight like this would serve us is to cross-compare performances to see who did it better. The who did it better angle against the common opponent. Devin against Yuriorkis versus Davis against Yuriorkis.
That's about it.
That's the most you can get out of fighting the ghost of Yuriorkis Gamboa at this point. But that's not what Devin needs right now. What Devin needs right now is a solid win over a solid fighter. And I hate to say this, but Yuriorkis Gamboa at this point in his career is not a solid fighter. Maybe to a prospect on the come-up, but certainly not a world-class contender, let alone a world-class champion. Champion like Devin Haney. Why the hell don't they get Ivan Mendy on the phone? Ivan Mendy, who fought Luke Campbell 2 times. Ivan Mendy, who's 1-1 with Luke Campbell. Why don't they call that guy? Oh, he might not be as well known amongst the casual audience as Gamboa, but he's still a more solid choice in this situation than Yuriorkis Gamboa. That guy's coming off a loss. What has he done that he's being afforded a world title shot? Give me an Ivan Mendy versus Devin Haney, or an Emmanuel to go who's on a hot streak.
Yeah.
Give me an Emmanuel to go versus Devin Haney. Neither one of these two fighters are all that well known, but they're still more solid opponent options than Yuriorkis Gamboa. Hell, if you insist on fighting a fighter that's coming off a loss, you might as well get Ray Beltran on the phone. Why don't you call that guy? Why don't you call the former IBF champion, Richard Comey? Those two guys are coming off of losses the same way that Yuriorkis is coming off a loss, but the difference is that they were champions not that long ago. So if you want my opinion, and you're here, so I'll assume that you do, I can't get behind Haney versus Gamboa, even under these circumstances. I'm not on board for that fight at all. And finally, Terence Crawford had this to say on facing his friend, Sean Porter. That's a good fight for me. Terence Crawford and Sean Porter have been linked to a future fight for years. But with Crawford tied to Top Rank and Porter with PBC, no serious steam has been built for the pair to show down. To complicate matters a bit more, Crawford and Porter are close and consider each other friends. Sean Porter has said in the past that if a clash were to take place, it would be a decision they have to co-sign, not the powers that be. Terence Crawford was quoted as saying, "That's a good fight. If that's a fight that Porter wants to pursue, we can talk about it, and so be it. I don't duck no fighter. I never turned down no fighter, so I won't stop now. My whole thing was I'm looking for the titles, and I'm trying to become undisputed. Me and Sean are good friends. My whole thing was, before he lost to Errol Spence, there was no mention of, let's have a unification fight, or nothing. So I feel that type of way about that. It don't matter. We all gotta fight each other. I wanna fight everybody." Sean Porter was quoted as saying, "Our friendship is really tight. I admire him as a fighter, and I've gotten that back in return." Sean Porter, in reference to a Crawford fight, was recently quoted as saying, "We've got other things brewing." Everything is regular around here. I'm the same old G that I've always been, and I said I recognize that about you. Ever since the amateur days, and that's why I always rocked with you, and that's why I'm always going to rock with you. People always wonder, what is that? So I just wanted to let you know that real recognize real, and you give me the same thing every time I see you. And that's why you will always be one of my guys in boxing. I can't hang with everybody in boxing, but I know anytime you come to my city, I can get up with you because it's going to be the same thing it's always been. The fight, to the best of my knowledge, is off the table right now. I know he's got some things brewing, and we're all coming back from the COVID. It's not necessary for me to take a tune-up fight. I'll fight anyone in the world right now, but I do know that he's got some things brewing because of the COVID. I've got some things brewing. Nothing big. It's not going to be a rematch with Errol Spence, which is something that everybody wants. It's not going to be anything like that. The business is what's keeping us from fighting. And I don't mean it's the business by its PBC and Top Rank. I just mean that he has some things going on, and I have something else going on. And that's going to lead me in a different path. And it's not that he said I'm going to leave that, I don't want to leave that and fight you or anything like that. It's just that we have the understanding that he's going that way right now. I'm going this way, and everybody just going to have to be patient. Let me tell you something. I'm not against this fight. I actually like this fight. I wouldn't mind seeing it in November when Terence Crawford is slated to return. But the truth of it is that this fight is where it always was. Hasn't gone anywhere, and in all likelihood, it won't. I'd sooner expect Terence Crawford to step into the ring against Kell Brook in his very next fight than he would Sean Porter, because Sean and Terence have the same demeanor towards fighting each other. They're friends, and they view each other as a last resort. You can't play the blame game here. Sean isn't in any more of a hurry to fight Terence than Terence is in a hurry to fight Sean. It's mutual. And the only real reason that this fight became a talking point was because Errol Spence's fans tried to use it as another hoop for Terence Crawford to have to jump through. They didn't demand that Mikey Garcia jump through any hoops. When he said he wanted to fight Errol Spence, they certainly aren't demanding that Danny Garcia jump through any hoops. I mean, what the hell's that guy done the last couple of years of any note?
Nothing.
The only reason that Sean Porter versus Terence Crawford even became a thing was because Errol Spence's fans wanted to use it as a deflection, a distraction, another obstacle in the proverbial obstacle course they've set up to keep Terence Crawford away from Errol Spence so that Errol Spence can navigate with impunity and continue to have his pick of the litter. If this guy really is in tip-top shape, and he doesn't actually need a tune-up fight, then he wouldn't be tuning up with Danny Garcia.
But that's what he's doing.
And that's what that is. That is a tune-up fight, folks, whether you want to admit it to yourselves and others or not. I mean, what we've got here is a situation to where Terrence and Sean, they're really not in a hurry to fight each other, but Sean's not the only welterweight out there, is he? No. What's Keith Thurman so fucking busy with that he's not chomping at the bit for what would be another opportunity to become a world champion in the welterweight division?
What's the problem?
What's he all tied up with? What's preventing him? What's stopping him from pursuing a Terrence Crawford fight? I mean, Sean doesn't seem to be in a hurry to have one. Errol, he's got to tune up with Danny.
That's what he's doing.
Manny's a legend, so nobody's going to put any real pressure on him given how much he's proven already. Well, what about Keith?
What the fuck's he up to?
You got a lot of people out there who are fully aware that Terrence Crawford is facing a scarcity of opponents. You got a lot of people out there who'd go as far as giving Terrence Crawford shtick for fighting Kell Brook under these circumstances. But these are the same people that aren't applying any pressure to a guy like Keith Thurman, a guy with nothing on the horizon, nothing in his dance card.
Nothing going on.
A whole lot of shit to say, but not a whole lot of shit to do. I'll tell you what, it's pretty disappointing that the welterweight division, one of the glamour weights in boxing, today's welterweight division being dominated by mostly American fighters, homegrown American fighters, it's pretty disappointing that this is what we have to listen to, that this is what we have to deal with.
I've talked about this many times.
And we'll continue to talk about it many more. Because until the boxing fans themselves create the grassroots movement on the ground for the PBC stable of welterweights to start fighting Terrence Crawford, it's just going to be more of the same thing, week after week, month after month. We know a lot about what a lot of fighters have in store as we transition out of this global pandemic. But when it comes to Terrence Crawford, we still don't know who this guy's going to be fighting in his next fight.
We still don't know.
The boxing fans here stateside who should be clamoring for the PBC to open up their stable to Terrence Crawford, they just don't want it bad enough. If they did, that demand would leave the PBC so inclined, compelled even, to make those kinds of fights. But that demand, it really isn't there. Oh, Terrence Crawford's fans, they want to see him have those fights with those fighters. But the PBC and their followers,
They don't.
They're not too bothered. They're not too concerned. They don't really care. Because that's the kind of quote-unquote boxing fans they are.
Pretty much.
They're fans who act as managers. What I like to call fanagers.
Make of that what you will.